Welcome back, and allow us now to cross over to our sister station Spice FM for an ongoing conversation with Jubilee Party Secretary General, that is Jeremiah Kioni, where they're having a discussion on is the country on the right track. Listen in.
Project can be seen being implemented. Within the last 10 years, Kenya was like a construction site with those 10.6 trillion shillings. What we expected the next regime or the next government to do was to build on the infrastructure that had been put together by the Jubilee government. What are we seeing? Just abandonment, stagnation, a lot of money, and a lot of stealing of government resources. Kenyans have given up on these people. When I was here before, I told you that you would be dreaming to think that we are going to have UDA 2022. What you are seeing in Murang'a is nothing to do with fighting for positions within UDA. It is the relevant of the individual as they decide where else to go. The state we are in, it is upon us to exploit it or to make advantage of it. One good thing that has happened to us in Mount Kenya is that things are so bad that people have now concluded kube ni kweli hawezi pata kitu dunia ya watu. How can we organize ourselves differently? Given where we are, we must make sure that we don't commit the same mistakes 2027 if we get there. So it is now upon the few of us who can think together with the ordinary Kenyans and say, given what we have gone through, given the mistakes we made 2022, how do we organize ourselves to ensure that we don't do that next time?
How do you organize yourselves, Jeremiah, to know that the person that you select, I mean, sure, you can talk about a CV, you can talk about a track record, but how then do you know that the person that you select, the person who says, well, you know, I can do this for you or with you, will actually deliver on what they have said they will do? I think that would be the bane of the selection process for a lot of Kenyans.
And we in the region have now decided to come together in the form of Remuru 3, not to look for a political leader among ourselves. No. It is to identify the issues that we will need addressed by whoever comes into power, whichever groups comes into power, and those issues will then determine for us who is the best person to manage them. We do not want a person coming and making promises like were made, talking to our Mama Mboga and directly to our Mama Mboga. There's no problem talking to Mama Mboga directly, but making sure that you talk to Mama Mboga to the point that you can make serious promises to people. And because of the desperate nature that they are in, they are easily lied to. We have a people's initiative at Limuru, and the date is on the 17th of May this year, where we are going to have people coming from every county that has some presence of people from Mount Kenya. And this is not a meeting for us. It is so that we can also be able to know what are these issues that needs to be addressed for the young people. Let them know what are their experiences given the last 2 years. The women, the aged, the persons with various abilities and disabilities. Then we can then be able to say, this is what we would want any person coming to us to address. In our region, we have cried about the one man, one vote, one sharing. You may want to call it a mantra. But if that is addressed in our region, whoever it is that thinks can look at us in the eye and say, yes, the one man, one vote, one sharing makes sense to the whole country, not to our region alone, then we know. And then you put policies on the table that you are going to push through once you have that position. It is a kind of a person, that is a kind of a people that we want to have in office. The other thing that I think is also important is this, which we have also learned as a community. We have seen this even from the Somali community, because you have to run from others. Somalis will come to Jubilee Party. They are members of Jubilee. In fact, like today, one of the person liking Jubilee or trying to like Jubilee most is, and I have seen him here before, how I wish that you can call him so that we can debate him together, is Adan Kenan.
Okay.
He is from the Somali community.
We've taken that into note, yes.
Now, they are in every party in this country. They have no loyalty. They have only loyalty to their issues. So he is in Jubilee, he is pushing Somali issue. From the point of view of where they sat together as a community and agreed, this is what we want in our region. Sasa weenda pandeyo, kwendeni. We must approach, even us in Mount Kenya, we are going to have the similar approach. We will be together as a community. And again, we have a 9 million block. And I want to know who is it in this country who will be looking for the leadership of the country that can ignore a block of 9 million voters if they decide to work together. And that is what we want to start thinking through in Limuru. So if you then decide to go to whichever other party, remember the one man, one shilling, one vote. Just as one example, remember we are business people. We need the agriculture supported. We need education systems in our place differently. Don't just come and call us Walevi and call us Mogeki. That is what we have gotten from some of these parties. And getting our 82-year-old mothers and they are members of Mogeki. That is only done to a community that has lost respect in the country, that is being seen like they cannot organize themselves to have a single approach. A community that seems to have no regard for the leadership. And it is also important to know this, and this is what we have also we are also bringing to the table, that the kind of leaders we bring from our legion will fight themselves in the National Assembly. National Assembly is where all leaders assemble in the nation, and they make decisions that affect the whole country. So if you contribute bad leaders from your region to the assembly, the decisions that are made by that assembly affect the whole country. We are not proud of the leaders that we put into Parliament 2022 as a region. We expected to have the kind of leaders that we had in the name of Paul Mwite, Gitofi Manyara, those people who helped shape even the constitution-making process in this country. Which leader from Mount Kenya today can you pick out who can help us from that kind of a platform? Is it that we have learned out of those leaders? No. It's because we didn't organize ourselves well. And we allowed somebody to come around and say, we are going to form a government of Mama Boga and Boda. And we all were happy in the region, not knowing that if you don't have good leaders in the National Assembly, and they don't have to come from a given sector. I'm not belittling the Mama Boga and the Boda. They also have quality leaders. But if you do not get to understand them before they are picked by others on your behalf, then you end up with the mess that you are in. How do you explain when I sit in Muranga, I was in a constituency called Kigumo, called by these wazees, the Kiamas and the rest, in their goat-eating functions. And I'm seated there as a guest, and a member of parliament starts and says, we were seated at the avocado tree. And Mzee asked, you are telling me that I'm going to pay taxes because of this avocado? I have only two in this family. They are the only two trees. These are the only two trees that sustain this family. Education, food, health, ibitibiri. Is this what you now want to tax? And the member of parliament starts up and says, I want to say, we have even filed an amendment motion.
This was a live conversation?
Live.
Okay.
I have now put an amendment to the law, a lie, because you don't amend Finance Act in that manner. So he lies in the process of parliament. When I'm seated there, and I felt very bad, I didn't want to embarrass him also. But then he says that the only reason we didn't see it, because the Finance Act is a very voluminous thing. It is big as the Bible. It was again repeated by another member from the same area in another forum. So it's something that they have agreed on how to tell Kenyans. That the Finance Act is so big, you cannot read the whole of it. So something passed without. How on earth would I ever forgive you for you allowing taxation on my produce, and I elected you to go and ensure that I'm not taxed unfairly? What was the law? And then I still heard them saying that mbunge ako na kazi mingi, hawezi ona sheria. Kazi ingine gani? Ya kwenda kuibaiba ama kwenda kurabaraba watu huko State House. You know, it's so stupid of the kind of leadership, the kind of statements that they are saying are so embarrassing to us that we cannot allow this to continue. So when we are at Limuru on the 17th of May this year, these are some of the things that we need to address to ourselves too. How is it that we even lost an agenda for our region? How is it that we can survive with 35 political parties and they have no known position about the region? So we want these political parties to agree to work together on a given agenda. When you go to your own political party, this is now the agenda for our region. If you don't sign to that agenda, then we will ensure that you also have no business fielding candidates in that region. And I want to tell you, we are not interested in saying Kioni is running for presidency or Mother. No. Those who are saying that are fellas who have already roasted. It has nothing to do with coronation of leaders.
So we're talking about an agenda here that is actually going to talk about
from
political and economic development of what could come from regional to then nationwide, and say that these are the issues that actually must be discussed and be dealt with in the person of leadership at some point, at whatever level.
The intention is to create a forum where those who are already available can benefit the region. Let me just mention a name. You want to tell me that somebody like the CEO of Equity Bank has nothing he can offer to the region in terms of management or something? He doesn't need to become a political leader, but he has something he can tell you that when you have policies of this nature, the economy of your region will grow. You have people like Rainas Gitahi, who has been in this industry. He's running his own industries in tropical, whatever. So we have industrialists from our region who can actually guide us on the kind of policies that you should never, ever again allow, kind of taxation measures that you should never allow to come into place. Otherwise, you have no good intentions for your people. I was talking to one of the directors of Kenya Farmers, what is it called? The Farmers' Choice. And was saying the region through pig farming contributes about 3 billion shillings to the national kitty. Through pig farming, 3 billion shillings. Now, they have brought this e-teams thing, that they want every farmer taking a pig to their factory to be charged another tax. Remember already, through Farmers' Choice, our region is taking 3 billion shillings. And you now have introduced another taxation at the gate, which you now want to tax the farmer again. And he's saying this is killing pig farming within Mount Kenya region. And it is true, because the farmer is saying, if you're already taxing me, you are buying maybe 60 shillings per pig, and because of the taxation that you eventually are going to pay to the government. And then the government again want to come and tax my 60,000, then afadhali niachane na hii maneno ya ukulima. These are some of the things, silent issues that are hitting us so hard. I do dairy farming. And one of the things I'm told, Mimi, Kioni, ni kwamba I cannot do my own silage because I'm already doing, I have a formula of ensuring that I have quality silage that will give me better. I am told I cannot do that. I have to go and buy from a licensed agrovet. People in the industry will be able to tell you, you go through that route, it is the death of your people. And that is why we want this Limuru meeting. And it is a people's initiative. It is not by being called by the so-and-so in our community. Ni watu wenyewe na ni watu wajitolee. Hakuna mtu anakuja kuwalipa ati ufanye nini. Watu wajitolee, tukutane kule, tuelewane, mwelekeo wetu wa kibiashara ni upi. Hizi sera ambazo tumewekewa kwa meza na hawa ambao wako kwa serikali, tutaishi dunia hii miaka 3 ama ni kusema la kama wanadaktari. Sisi kama wanasiasa tunaweza kuaji na vyama 30 kutoka eneo moja. Kwa nini tusikubali hizi vyama siwe zinafanya kazi moja? How can we be able to make it possible for the parties to work together? So that even as we engage the others who want presidency or the leadership of this country, we are engaging them on a platform. How do you ensure that the 9 million vote block is available for anybody who wants it but on condition that we are also on that table. Because how do you keep us out when you have a 9 million voting bloc?
Something that has always puzzled me, what is it that the Jubilee government did or didn't do in the mountain region that laid the ground for those who are now in power to actually be as convincing as they were?
We allowed the freedom of speech in an unfettered manner. And you don't have to check it by doing anything unconstitutional. It's by educating your people. We overestimated the ability of our people to sieve through issues. And we allowed people to come and talk to all of them, and tulikuwa tunasema wacha waende waseme watu kutoka eneo hilo si wajinga watawaelewa. There was a lot of lying and propaganda that we allowed to go to the ground without it being countered.
What prevented the leadership then from countering it?
It was that position of saying, watu wetu hii mambo wanaelewa. I want to confess here. I thought my voter, his intelligence level was to the level where he could tell some of these promises can never be broken.
Did that realization come at that juncture? Or when did the realization that the loss of touch actually occurred happen?
Every time you do an election, you also go through yourselves and see what did you do wrong and how can you improve it. That is something that we all agreed we went wrong after we did our election. I also say we also put a lot of premium on our religious people. I talked about my grandfather.
Yes.
He was among the very first people in that region to embrace Christianity and education. And through it, a lot of good changes have come about. Little did we know that it is also through the same route that the damage that we are now going through was going to come through. So there are people who have mastered us and used the same channels that we have used to do well up to where we are, and they use them to ensure that we are now looking like the beggars we are today as a community. And this is and we must be clear to one another. Then, of course, there are those of us who get into position, and all we do is enrich ourselves. You go to power for purposes of personal greed, and you fail to understand it is a privilege to serve others. That is another mistake that has happened big time. Even today, there are people who are telling us, kutakuwa kuzuri, and I'm sure you are not part of them when you are telling me to look at the good things that are being done. The good things that are being done are people now who are saying, nitafanya biashara na hii serikali mpaka wakati wa uchaguzi. And we have a number of those people from our region now. And they are the ones trying to tell you, itakuwa kuzuri, angalia petroli imeenda chini. Why? Because they're in business. But I am telling you the direction the region is going, we will be doing very, very poorly. If we don't organize ourselves now, we will never be around by the people in power or others to ever organize ourselves in a manner that we can make sense in this country. That realization is there. And that is why they picked on individuals and started, there are people who are in power on account of insulting others from our region. I want to, and I can, again, I'm ready for a debate with Moses Kuria. And I want to commend him for having gone to Raila and giving a goat to say sorry. I don't know. I hope the goat is not anything near from Northlands, because some of the goats have still not been recovered.
Oh, SG, seriously?
Yes, I'm very...
Okay.
I want him, because I also know that where did the meeting take place? The meeting that organized for the lading of Northlands. We know. We have confessions of people who still sat in those meetings. The same people who are now ready to say sorry, apologize, were the people who are organizing for those leads. Another issue that we want to address at Limuru 3.
Those are the things that you're talking about.
I wanted to say this. There are some of those leaders who are in power only on account of their ability to insult others. Insulting others has become a mark of quality, or a gate to power. When you take those kind of persons to parliament and you expect them to contribute to the national debate, then the whole country becomes consumers of the product from the same people. And it is not just our region. is the regions across this country. I am not saying this for any whatever, but look at the kind of quality of leaders we get from Nyanza. I mean, I was in that parliament with Mirio Thiambo, Tiendi Omoro, Wadai, Nyikal. Every time they start to speak, you listen. Because even if it is any propaganda that they would want to push, they push it with some intelligence. And I'm not saying they push propaganda.
Well,
remember Kibaki saying.
1 + 1 = 2.
Remember Kibaki saying, even lying, even cheating requires intelligence. Anything you do requires some intelligence. So you want to tell us that we don't have? When you look at people passing at Glade, when we were doing this standard 8 thing, Form 4, we are always having schools from Mount Kenya at the top. But we also don't want people to keep telling us like Ichungwa, I am a product of Alliance, but we are not seeing what you learned from Alliance. And I'm not talking about Ichungwa, but it is not just a question of going. It's not just a question of going to a good school. It's a question of coming out with something from that good school and us seeing that it is benefiting people. So we really need to address ourselves to these issues, and it is only possible if we as a community have that self-retrospect.
But
and agree that we made mistakes, and one of the mistakes is that we let it too loose. 2022.
Take this view. Consider this view. When you say you believed in your people and you believe they would make the right decision, isn't there an element of then taking the voter for granted, assuming that the thinking is good, faith in the voter, but then how did it resonate? Because it honestly puzzles me, because how does the ground get laid? How is it prepared to the point where indeed your thinking was not out of thin air? No. If there's one area where the turnover of leaders is high, it's always the mountain. And it tells you, people tell you, okay, we've seen what you're doing and we know you're not helping us, you're going out. Now, the thinking and your understanding, there's evidence to it. But for there to be such a dramatic change, it's like people needed to get back at people for some reason. Is it that they felt they were taken for granted? Is it that they felt that their interest was not being looked after? What is it? Why am I saying this? Because even if you have Limuru 3, and that gap is not properly addressed, there is no guarantee that come 2027, there'll be any real meaningful change.
And this is why we want to be guided by the issues. And I want to agree with you completely, because what happens is that you have the state of people, their needs are this much. For you to be able to satisfy that need, you need to do this much.
Right.
For you to do,
over and above, yes.
For you to do this much, you require X amount of time. So you need economic growth for a given time of given number of years for you to be able to satisfy the needs of people. So what happened? You have a population that is in need of so much, and you need this amount of time, and you are being realistic. For example, you say, let us have kazi kwa vijana so that people can have some money in your pocket as we grow the industries, or as we grow, we allow companies, the Rivertex and the rest to grow their capacity to employ. But somebody comes and says, no. You are in this situation because Serikali is a dynasty. Serikali. We now are going to have a Serikali of Mama Boga na Boda Boda. You are the ones who are going to be in government. Your fortunes will change tomorrow. That's what happened. That's exactly what happened. And people said, hii wajinga wetu wanatuambia tukae miaka 10 hapa, na huyu amekuja kutuweka kwa serikali, kesho tuwe tajiri, kwa nini tuachane? So they abandoned the wisdom of growing an economy which is sustainable, and fell to the lies of promises that you are going to be part of this government and your fortunes will change tomorrow. Today, Mama Mboga at Mairoine, a place called Mairoine is my constituency, is required to pay 200 shillings up from 20 shillings. 200 shillings up from 20 shillings.
To sell her.
The border fella was paying 150 shillings. He is required to pay 900 shillings. They are all in court. And for that reason, the payments have been suspended. They will eventually be made to pay. So they were fooled into a thing that cannot work. But we also want to own up and say, there is a gap that we allowed to develop between those who could understand where we were going and how we were going there, and those who needed to be made to go with us along the journey. We hope some of these gaps, can be bridged by regular engagement. Lemuru 3 is not us talking to them. It's also for them now to come and say, unlike before, because this is the silver in this lining, unlike before, we were lied to, and we can now tell lies between lies and what you are telling us.
Indeed. Look,
you remember, like, for example, as I love